Assalamualaikum and good evening everyone. Today we are going to present on a textual analysis on the Malay translation of Harry Potter and the Secret Chamber. Now, we move to the introduction. So, some people read books as their hobby. This is because books serve as one of the great tools for people to escape from the reality. According to Safiah 2018, reading fiction can provide many of those self-improvement benefits even while exploring the stories only in mind. Some of the benefits include help to activate regions in the brain that are responsible for understanding others, experience slower memory, decline later in life, and make readers more open-minded towards certain issues. Therefore, the number of translated book production continues to increase over the years due to high demand from all people around the world with different languages. Next. So, our group chose a Harry Potter novel, which is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. On the left side is the original version, which is in English language, and on the right side is the Malay translation, Harry Potter dan Bilik Rahsia. So for the synopsis, after a year at Hogwarts, Harry spends his summer break with his auntie and uncle. At the house, Harry finds a mysterious house elf that tells him to expect the trouble during his second year at Hogwarts. After a few days at school, Harry starts to notice some strange things that happen around him. There is a message on the walls warning that the Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Those who come from the non-wizard family will be killed by the heir of Slytherin. At the end of the chapters, Hogwarts is finally back to normal. The mysteries are solved and Harry secures the house cup for Gryffindor. Now we move to why is it translated. The first reason is because to celebrate the diversity of languages and cultures. As we all know, we have a lot of languages and cultures all around the world. So not all people can actually understand English. Therefore, the book is translated into the languages that they can understand. The second reason is to develop new readers. Through the translation of various languages, the books are reachable and touchable by many readers. And lastly, readers can perceive the message as intended by the author. So when the readers understand the content of the book, they can perceive the text in a manner that corresponds to the author's intention. That's all from me.
Okay, so I'm gonna continue. So what did we analyze? After discussing, we decided to analyze the translation, how the translator translate adjectives in chapter 1 and also chapter 2 of this translated novel. So we found 6 different techniques. The first one is equivalence, literal translation, adaptation, modulation, addition, and subtraction. So the first one, equivalence. Equivalence is expressing something in a completely different way, but the text remain equivalent to each other. So because translation usually involve at least 2 languages, for in this case it's Bahasa Melayu and English. So it has different rules in phonology, grammar, vocabulary, and all of that. So sometimes translation will involve a certain degree of loss or distortion in meaning. So equivalence in translation does not mean complete sameness. We're not looking for the exact word or direct translation, but we're looking at corresponding word or expression that will deliver the same message to the readers. Okay, so the example that we found, one of the example that we found in this book is mata yang merah menyala. This phrase is used to translate 2 different English phrases. The first one is demonic glint and the second one is mad gleam dancing in his eyes. So it's a completely different sentence with completely different words, but mata yang merah menyala is used because merah means red and usually associated with anger. So it is used to describe anger that shows in Uncle Vernon's eyes. So next we have cultural equivalence, which is replacing a cultural word in the source language with a target language one. So for example, tulisan cakap ayam. For the untidy scroll, it is translated into Malay proverb, which is cakap ayam, and is closely related to our culture. Descriptive equivalence, we translate into target language descriptively, we describe, so it becomes a bit more longer compared to the original word. So in this example, bertubuh besar dan gemuk dengan leher yang hampir tidak kelihatan is the translation of large and necklace. So because when we translate adjective that end with less, we usually add tanpa or tidak or tiada. Okay, for the next one, literal translation. So literal translation must follow three criteria. Word order is identical in the source and target language. Source and target text items correspond one-to-one, and each source word has only one possible translated form in the given context. It can either turn very good or very bad, especially when you translate idioms or proverbs. So this is the most used technique, because as you can see, this is the example from page 10 only. We have 6 different words. So as you can see, Dobby's warning means amaran Dobby, long thin nose, hidung kurus panjang, old pillowcase means sarung bantal, and so on. So that's all from me. Next.
Okay, so the next technique that the translator used to translate the adjective words is adaptation. Adaptation technique is used when the culture of the source language is alien or unfamiliar to the reader of the target language. Thus, it might hinder the message from being transferred. For that reason, the SL culture is substituted with the TL culture, which expresses the same principle and shares the same characteristics. So for this novel, the translator used the technique quite a few times to translate the adjective words. Two examples that we can see is horse, face, and bony, and also sugar violets. So the translation of these phrases is the perfect example of the usage of the adaptation technique, where the descriptions of the physical appearance of the character have been adapted so that they are suitable in the TL culture, as it is impossible to literally translate horse face to Malay. Yeah, and also sugar violets to Malay. Next is modulation. So modulation, in modulation, we use a phrase that is different in the SL and TL to convey the same idea. So when we use this technique, the commonly accepted translation of the SL in the TL is used. For example, in the novel, countless times is translated to sudah beberapa kali. From the example, the phrase means literally masa yang tidak terkira banyaknya, but the translation much better as sudah beberapa kali, where it fits in the context of the novel. So next is addition. There are different circumstances that might oblige a translator to make an addition. The first one is to clarify an elliptic expression, to avoid ambiguity in the target language, to give extra information to define the term and to add connectors, and also to change a grammatical category. Okay. For this example, freak place is translated to sekolah yang aneh itu. So the translator used the word sekolah for the translation of the word place in order to provide the readers with additional details as well as to avoid confusion to the TL readers. Next. So the last one is subtraction. There are 4 situations where the translator should use this procedure. The first one is unnecessary repetition, specified references, conjunctions, and also vocatives. The example that we found in the novel is invisible woman is translated to wanita, and orb-like eyes aglow is translated to matanya yang membonjol. So the translator did not translate the word invisible in the phrase invisible woman and aglow in the phrase orb-like eyes aglow, as it is not that important and the translation is still comprehensible by the readers. Hence, it does not affect the understanding of the context in the novel by the readers. So moving on to the next presenter.
Okay, now, so after we have already highlighted all of the translation techniques, now it's time to review it. Now, the analysis of Malay translated version of Harry Potter and the Secret Chamber has highlighted the translation process by breaking down the translation techniques into what they have mentioned just now into 6 parts, which were literal translation, equivalence, modulation, adaptation, addition, and also a subtraction. Now, these various techniques, which were applied evidently, showcases the undeniable detail that goes into translating the novel. Furthermore, all 6 techniques were already discovered in chapter 1 and only chapter 2 alone. Despite the approaches taken by the translator in order to tackle this literary work, there are still challenges in translating literature which even the translator cannot avoid. Now, first let's look into the weakness of the translated version. So for the first one that I would like to highlight is the slight dissonance in evoking the same response. Now, for example, free place, when translated becomes sekolah yang aneh. Now, this translation is not wrong because sekolah yang aneh, it does. Okay, no. The translation is correct. However, free place does not carry the same connotation as sekolah yang aneh would, because freak here would also imply synonyms such as abnormal or an anomaly, which is something negative. However, the word aneh can be associated with the word such as weird or unusual, which is less offensive than what freak would imply. Another example would be the greatest dark sorcerer, which is translated into seorang ahli sihir yang paling jahat. Now, in the source language, the author tries to emphasize on greatest to describe how powerful the dark sorcerer is. And yet, the translator emphasizes more on the wickedness of the dark sorcerer with the words paling jahat, which translate to the most evil. Now, there's also a clear dissonance here because, as you can see, they're emphasizing more on how evil the Lord Voldemort is. Now, the overall translated version was comprehensible to the readers, I can say that. The translator made a great effort in translating culturally specific expression through the use of adaptation. Now, for example, salmon pink, which is translated into merah jambu, and sugar violets, which is translated into gula yang beraneka warna. Now, why I can say that this has been translated well is because you can properly translate salmon pink. You can translate salmon into to associate with color in Malay, because otherwise it would sound like ikan salmon merah jambu. It just doesn't sound right, right? So also sugar violets is actually a kind of treat which is found in Canada and also Britain. But however, we have never heard of this before, right? So to describe the treat would be more of a hassle for the translators. So therefore they chose to translate it into gula yang beraneka warna. So now for the conclusion, I'll just make it brief. Now, a reader becomes more critical of translation of a translated version if they have also read the original version, right? Now, a reader who has only read the book in one language would not have any comparisons to make with the other version. Now, as a book series that comes at number 8 as the most translated book in the world, the pressure is even higher for this translator to be able to translate Harry Potter in Malay as accurately as possible. For a book series that most people have grown up reading, the wizarding world of Harry Potter seems like an alternate universe that is all too real for the fandom. So having the book series translated into multiple languages offers every children and even adults an equal amount of opportunity to experience a little bit of magic just like everyone else. So enjoying the creative and distinctive styles of writing from foreign writers is always a fun way to experience literature in a new perspective. This is why proper translation skills is so important in the pursuit to translate literature while retaining the same emotion and style of the original author. So that's all.